I need you to know the devastation you're causing.
Yeah.
And P.S. You put me on testosterone and birth control at the same time. I was a stupid kid, too stupid to understand how insane that was.
Wow.
I was taking two different drugs. One telling my body that I'm a man, and the other drug telling my body that I'm pregnant.
What?
I've had a number of transgender people watch my videos over the years, and if they're sympathetic, they'll say something along the lines of, "I'm so sorry cisgender people like you keep being misdiagnosed." Am I cisgender? What differs me from trans people? I have gender dysphoria, I have autoandrophilia, I still want to be a man, I still dress mostly butch. So what's the difference? There is none.
Wow.
And they don't want to admit that. They don't want to face that this whole thing doesn't work. They have this no true Scotsman logical fallacy of, well, if it didn't work for you, then you must not actually be trans. No, technically speaking, by your definitions, I am transgender.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to do something a little more serious. I ran across these videos of detransitioners or female to male to female people. Should we call them detrans? I don't know. I'm a little confused. And also, I just want everybody to know here that I do believe in transition. I believe in it as an adult space. I believe in it after a lot of mental health care. I believe it does not work for everyone. I've always believed that should always be gatekept, and I will show you why I believe it needs to be gatekept. And we have a lot of young women, mostly, or young girls, some being girls, some being women, who are being hurt by this transitional space. And I will also show you how the transgender community goes after these people in a way that you were never trans, you were never this, and yet at the same time, when they are transitioning, they're all woohoo, roses and candy, and looked at as these sort of part of the tribe. But when they realize that they should have never done this before, and then they're outcasted, very cult-like behavior, as you know, all the things that you and I continue to talk about, and I won't shut up about it. But I really want you to understand that I am in no way saying that transition cannot work. I am proof that it can work, but I am proof you have to work on yourself. You have to live some life. You have to understand it doesn't mean there are people who live with gender dysphoria their whole lives and never medically transition. That is an actual thing. I've really started to want to call it sex dysphoria because I want to get away from this gender space, and I want to get back into why somebody like me has done this is because I don't want to be perceived as a female. I want to be perceived in the world as a male, though I know I'm not a man, and it takes a lot of work to get to where I'm at in this reality-based space. And I think I do prove to you that it can work, but I also can prove to you that I know in my reality is that I'm not a man. I'll never be a man, and that's a really big part of transitioning and why transsexualism needs to be put back onto the table, and that we need to separate from this transgender agenda, and that they are teaching young people that they can change their sex and that trans is this identity, and it's hurting more young women. Some young men are being hurt by it too, but the majority of the people who are detransitioning or getting hurt by this are young women, and we know that they have so many more issues that they are dealing with, and different kinds of issues than males are dealing with. And you'll see by I'm going to skip through a couple of these videos because they're very long, and I'll put links to them so you can watch the whole interviews because they're very important. But that being said, you're going to see how they were sort of, for lack of a better word, or is it indoctrinated online through people, and why? Why would you ever want to? I don't want people to transition who don't need this. I don't need to indoctrinate you to make myself feel better, which is why I do think a lot of this is happening, because I think there is this idea that the more of us there are, people can't deny it. But the more of you who you keep creating is making it worse for your cause, okay? Because it's showing that it doesn't work. You can't just throw somebody into this because they're having body issues or all that. You need to work on their mental health before you can push them into a space that says, oh, you can look and be like this guy and your whole life will be better. It's clearly not true, and it's clearly not happening. So that first clip I wanted to start with, and here's the second one, and this is this same young woman who got caught into the whole transition space and eventually figured out that they were not a transgender person and that they were never going to be male. They were dealing with a lot of emotional problems, a lot of, I think, autism and all kinds of PCOS. And so I found this to be a very profound video because what it talks about is this woman realizing that her endocrinologist really screwed her over. And so let me bring this up.
I want to read to you the email I sent to my endocrinologist last week. Whether or not she ever responds, who can say, but at least if I share it here, someone will hear what I have to say. It's been over 6 years since I last saw you, but you impact my life every single day and always will. In the years since I have tried to report you to APRA, I have worked with lobbyists, I have tried to sue you.
Wow.
But it seems you're untouchable. For now. You are a doctor. You're an endocrinologist who specializes in PCOS. You know full well what raising a woman's testosterone would do to her health. And I've got news for you. There's even more catastrophic side effects that I don't even put in the textbooks yet.
Wow.
Testosterone caused me to have a full-blown psychosis. I was completely detached from reality. I told you about the violent urges I was experiencing, and you just shrugged and prescribed me a different brand of testosterone.
I am going to show you, just by this one video, okay, that this person was not told all the things most people who are taking a medication are told, okay? And this person, I think they now detransitioned 4 years ago, but there are many side effects this person is still dealing with, along with psychosis from the testosterone. I never heard of that, but I'm not saying they're lying. I'm saying, wow, how come we're not talking about that?
You never, ever took care of me. You never addressed my needs or concerns. Your reports detail a patient with rapidly declining physical and mental health and a home life that was falling apart, and you did nothing.
Wow.
And when I detransitioned alone, I went through more hell. I experienced several false pregnancies in the first couple of years of detransitioning. And I still experience mental psychosis, forcing me to take birth control for the rest of my life. Otherwise, I'm at risk of killing myself. My hormones are a complete mess. To this day, I struggle to eat anything that isn't meat or dairy. My immune system is very sensitive now. And I lost years of my life to chronic fatigue that was caused by the testosterone.
This is one of the things I keep hearing from a lot of the younger generation of people who took hormones. They have chronic fatigue syndrome now, okay, on top of all these other things that are happening to them. Chronic fatigue is horrifying. If you don't know what that is, basically you feel tired all the time. And I hear a lot, Chloe Cole talks about the fact that she has chronic fatigue syndrome now due to the testosterone. I guess it's one of the side effects.
And why would you inflict all of that upon me?
Yeah.
What did I do to you?
Wow.
I was just a naive kid that trusted you to know what was best for me. I never expected that I would become the victim of your experiments.
Wow.
You're supposed to be a medical professional who understands the impact of synthetic hormones.
Yeah.
You knew what you were doing. You cannot claim ignorance.
Right.
You knew I could never become a man. Why would you put that idea in my head? And I still want to be a man. But I'm an adult now. I know physically that it is impossible. I know I feel this way because I am an autoandrophile. A term I hadn't even heard of before I transitioned.
So, they come up with these terms now, which, AGP, autoandrophile, all these kinds of things that are happening with people. I could possibly be that. Who knows? Again, I'm going to keep repeating to all of you out there. I'm I'm happy in my transition. I don't ever feel like I want to go back. I feel very happy living in this space, but I live in a reality based space around it. It takes a lot of time, a lot of mental health care, a lot of understanding what this means to transition, right? These doctors lie to these people and say, oh, you can be a man. No, you can't. You can never be a man. That's never going to happen. I'm not a man, okay? You can call me transphobic. You can call me all the names in the book, YouTube. You can freak out because someone's going to report this, all of it. But the reality is that I did this 32 years ago. And I'm telling you that I never did change my sex. I changed my appearance. But it takes an adult. And this person even said they did it as a young person. A young person can't make these choices. No young person can make these choices ever, ever. You can never, ever talk me into that. It is not going to happen. Okay. I lived a lot of life before I did this. Thank God. Okay. And then I realized I just want to do this and I can make that choice. You can't stop an adult from making adult choices. Okay. And this is an adult choice.
I just needed a grown up to help me to understand myself.
See?
Under no circumstances should I be given testosterone before I've been given the all clear by a psychiatrist and a psychologist. The psychiatrist wrote a very dismissive letter, which should not have been enough to allow you to proceed.
Wow.
And at least the psychologist wanted to see me a few more sessions before proceeding.
Wow.
But what did you do? Ignore all that and start pumping me full of drugs that I didn't need and ruin my life.
Wow.
You know, I wasn't even sure I wanted to transition.
Wow.
I was on the fence. I had rapid onset gender dysphoria because I was living in an abusive family. No one ever asked me about my home life, not really.
Wow.
I was confused. I was traumatized. I was a closeted gay kid.
Wow.
I trusted the adults around me to go.
I'm going to tell you, like, this is all stuff that I lived as a gay person for many years of my life. So I got to at least try that on. I got to try all the other things on. This person is telling you that no one listened to them. No one looked at their home life. Also, you know that they try to block that ROGD, rapid onset gender dysphoria. It's a real thing that's happening now, right? Abigail Schreier's book got totally like banned because the trans people came after it, calling it transphobic. It's an important book. I'm a chapter in that book because I believe we need to talk about what is rapid onset. Why all of a sudden out of nowhere does a young girl who likes frilly things and trucks and not trucks and Barbie doll and blah, 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 all of a sudden decide they want to be a man? That's weird. And they're not showing any signs of, even though that doesn't mean you're trans, right? We know a lot of these kids are just dealing with stuff. And why can't a girl just be masculine? That's the other thing. They're regressing in this gender stereotypes.
Guide me to a better future.
Right.
Well, in a way, maybe you did that. After all the abuse and torture you put me through, I finally woke up in 2020 and realized this whole trans movement is a fucking joke.
That's right.
Homophobic, sexist joke.
She just said it. Trans movement. This is not a movement. This is a disorder. Big difference. Okay? A movement means you are trying to push people. You are trying to get them to see. This is not a movement. It's never been a movement. The new trans space is a movement. Okay? That's why I continue to want to separate transsexual. But now these people in the transgender community are taking transsexual and trying to use it as well. Don't be fooled by them. Do not be fooled. Transsexual is a mental disorder. It needs to have a lot of long-term. It needs gatekeeping, adult only. It is a whole different thing than what you see in the trans movement.
And why am I reaching out to you now?
Yeah.
If I can't go through legal means to stop you mutilating more confused kids, I'm taking this directly to you. Please, dear God, I beg you, stop hurting your patients. They may seem like they want to transition. Mm-hmm. You might think you're doing the right thing, but you're not. Don't alcoholics want alcohol? Don't anorexics want to starve themselves? Don't all suicidal patients want to kill themselves? Should we just let them harm themselves? Think. Dear Christ, think for one goddamn minute of what you're doing here. Mm-hmm. You aren't helping anyone to live their best life. You're a drug dealer.
Wow.
I need you to know the devastation you're causing.
Yeah.
And P.S. You put me on testosterone and birth control at the same time. I was a stupid kid. Too stupid to understand how insane that was.
Wow.
I was taking 2 different drugs. One telling my body that I'm a man, and the other drug telling my body that I'm pregnant.
What?
That's horrendous. That's unethical. What
Yeah.
did you expect would happen? You had no idea what you were doing, did you?
Nope.
I was your lab rat.
Imagine this person is telling you things that happened. I was never put on birth control, but I was actually called a guinea pig by my endocrinologist. This woman right here is talking to an endocrinologist 32 years later, doing insane stuff and not knowing They don't know. They do not know anything about putting testosterone in a female body. It's why I keep telling you biology matters. The things that happen when you put high levels of testosterone into a female body person, I know. I keep telling you. Atrophy, vaginal atrophy. I don't even know the long-term effects. It's supposed to affect the heart. You know, I'm very healthy because I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I work out. At 62, I'm pretty there. But, you know, I'm a rarity. These young kids aren't doing that. Many of them are obese. Many of them, you gain weight when you put testosterone in your body, okay? And it can be unhealthy weight unless you understand what that actually means, okay? So if they're not even caring about that, they go into Planned Parenthood. That's a fact, okay? It's fact. And they can walk out with testosterone within an hour or less of having some kind of weird intake, okay? This is insanity. This is not okay. And it screwed this girl's life up. I think she transitioned at 19 or something like that. It's still a child. Not understanding. When you go into a doctor, you trust the doctor knows what they're talking about. But these hormone, gender-affirming doctors know nothing. They know nothing about what's going on because they have not studied us. They do not know. You would think that I would be sort of like gold to these people, yet they ostracize me because I'm telling you certain things are bad, and only an adult in an adult space can understand. I'm willing to give up my sexual space. I'm willing to give up fertility. I'm willing to give up those things because I can make that choice as an adult. A 19-year-old girl cannot make that choice about her boobs and about hysterectomies and about testosterone doing all of the damage to this person's body. It's just very sad to me that we are in this space. I'm going to bring up this next one here. It's a long video. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I want you to see this is an actual detransitioner and her mother and how she got caught into it. I think here, hold on one second. I wrote it down here. There's a lot of information there. I think she started at like 9 or 10 going online. And then here, let me bring this up.
I was always a kind of tomboyish kid. Most of my friends were boys. I went through borderline precocious puberty. I started developing breasts at 8 years old and my period at 9. In the 5th grade, I was sexually harassed and eventually it became physical by another student. That was a tough time. I started being seen as like a young lady at around 9 or 10 years old.
Wow.
When I was very much developmentally still a child. I initially discovered transgenderism online through Instagram and Tumblr
Oh my
around
God.
10 years old.
10.
I started being groomed by an adult on the
What?
internet. I initially started identifying as non-binary.
That's the
I
gateway.
think the term that I used was demi-boy.
That's the
At
gateway.
11 and a half. By 12, I was pretty cemented as I'm a trans boy. I was fully socially transitioned by like 12 and a half.
Well,
When Claire came out to the family, she had been already socially transitioning in her school, and I was not aware of that. I didn't see it coming. It was really overwhelming and confusing to me. I honestly just thought this is just another phase.
My
What?
family were initially skeptical. They did their own research online and came across the studies that said that around 80% of children with gender distress desist by adulthood.
80% desist. But those statistics, the trans movement doesn't want to hear because it doesn't align with their agenda. Remember, 10 years old, this kid is on the internet, okay? Looking at this stuff, getting indoctrinated into demi-boy. I told you, non-binary is the gateway. Demi-boy is the gateway into all of this. It actually is.
They didn't want to affirm me in the
Wow.
beginning.
Good for good parents.
But shortly before I turned 13, I started seeing a new therapist who really beat them down, made them feel very small. They didn't want to be hurting me. And that's what she said they would be doing. They were told, your child has a medical condition that only has one treatment. And they were asked, would you rather have a dead daughter or a living transgender son?
There you go. That's it right there. That's the indoctrination. How dare people don't see that? How dare you, trans movement, do this to parents? How dare you totally manipulate and gaslight parents into thinking their child is going to off themselves, and then that's it. So what do you think? We all know. What do you think any parent is going to do in that situation? Those are the gender affirming therapists. Do you see how they built this whole platform to manipulate parents and children into believing that you are trans at 12 years old? 12. Disgusting.
I mean, that was kind of a no-brainer. If my child is going to kill herself,
Oh my God.
if I don't affirm her,
Oh my God.
I'm going to
Oh my God.
do whatever I have to save my child's life.
Any parent would rather have a living child than a dead one. And
Oh my God.
it was framed as though it wasn't a choice.
Where's the proof? Okay, there is none. That's not happening. God, please, it's just not happening. Okay, ideation, thinking about it, happens with a lot of kids who are depressed or whatever. It has nothing to do with just being trans. A lot, but they're not even showing me statistics of that. It's all gaslighting, and it's disgusting gaslighting.
Or I would very likely kill myself, and
Oh my
it
God.
would be their fault. And that was a lie.
Yep.
I was never suicidal before.
Just gross. Just gross.
In the 8th grade, I was introduced to the concept of the genderbread person
There you go.
through my
Indoctrination.
sex ed course, and it's used as a way to explain the concept of gender identity theory, mostly to children. And that was shortly before I began the testosterone injections. I had been...
Theory. Don't forget. Queer theory. Theory. The gingerbread man. Theory. Not fact. Theory. Oh my God. And then right before, then they start testosterone injections. What?
diagnosed with gender dysphoria. I had been described by multiple leading experts in the field in my area as a textbook trans boy.
What?
I started testosterone in November of 2018, a week after my 14th birthday. When they put me on testosterone, they also put me on my first SSRI. And that made me feel very emotionally flat. When my voice started dropping, and when I started getting body hair and growth in places, intimate places, I didn't really feel anything about it, because I wasn't really feeling anything at all. I did the "this is my voice, 1 month on testosterone, this is my voice, 5 months on testosterone" videos.
And this is my voice.
Okay.
11 months on T. So
Remember, I did a whole video on that. I did a whole video on "this is my voice, 5 minutes on T. This is my voice right before my injection." It's a whole thing that they do on TikTok, right? This is my voice, 1 year on T. Sounding all crazy and insane. These are 18-year-old kids. This is a 14-year-old kid. Okay, look at how they look right here. This is my voice. It's all a thing. It's all part of the movement. They even said it's a trans movement. Cutting your breasts off and having the scars. Everyone now has a nose ring. It's a uniform. They all look alike. Transsexual people don't all want to look alike. We want to fit in the world and look like a man. You and I both know I can walk down the street and no one would ever even know, ever. It's literally what a transsexual is. You don't want to be part of a crowd of a movement.
pretty cool.
And every time I would watch them, I just kind of felt
Gross.
numb. I was feeling nothing. When I told them that, they basically just kept increasing my SSRI dose. By January of 2019, I had been approved for surgery. I had been binding my breasts since I was 11, and they were pretty significantly deformed. And I was having nerve pain and rib deformity and spinal pain.
Wow.
It was kind of framed as the logical next step. Like, you're having these issues from the binding, so let's just cut them off. I was pretty brainwashed at this point. I felt like this is what I needed.
Of course. Of course. She's just telling you I was brainwashed into thinking the next step is to get my boobs cut off. I don't even know. They're not an adult yet. They're not an adult.
Seeing her body language, the way
Wow.
that she was so uncomfortable with her unbound breasts, I think that was a turn.
Aren't a lot of girls uncomfortable with their breasts? I think so. I don't think it's relegated to somebody who has most definitely gender or sex dysphoria. I think girls just get uncomfortable in puberty, whatever you are. It's just an uncomfortable thing. You start getting this stuff. People start looking at you on some level, become sexualized. And so I think it's just a normal part of female puberty. Yet now we're sort of framing this as you must be transgender because you're uncomfortable with your breasts.
Turning point for me when I started to believe that this is something that is real and that the treatment that is being suggested, recommended, will help her to feel more comfortable
Of
in her own
course.
skin.
My initial consultation for the surgery was in January of 2019, and it was a single 15-minute appointment.
There was not a lot of communication between myself and the plastic surgeon's office where Claire had her double mastectomy. I was concerned about how serious of a surgery that we were going into, and the nurse definitely reassured me that because of her age, that this would be like, she'd basically just a week later be her regular self. It was not something to be concerned about.
That's
We
not
scheduled the surgery for the summer between my 8th and 9th grade years.
true. Oh my.
School let out in May, and then June 11th, I had the surgery.
Ninth grade? Wait a minute. This isn't happening. They're not doing this to minors.
I had my mastectomy at the American Institute for Plastic Surgery, and they do drains-free procedures. When I woke up from the double mastectomy, I was very numb and very...
Do you remember this girl at this point is put on SSIs as well? Like what for? Like depression, or what's happening here? Why are you on testosterone and that?
foggy from the
Of course you
medication
are.
and the
Surgery.
anesthesia that I was on.
It's actual
When they
surgery.
first took the ACE bandages and the post-op binder off, and I cried. And the people in the room with me thought that it was happy tears.
Oh my God.
But I don't know. I was very emotionally numb. When I started weaning off of the medications, I started to realize that nothing had really changed. That I was still just as uncomfortable with my body. And then
Wow.
my nipple grafts fell off. Between my 3-week and 3-month post-op appointments, and there were just open sores, open wounds on my chest,
What?
and pretty horrible bruising. And
This is how old? Ninth grade. This is a ninth grade girl. Like, what are you people doing to these kids?
numbness.
All of this. It's literally a conveyor belt of top surgeries. You don't even need to have a letter from a psychologist. You don't need to have a letter from your endocrinologist. You don't need to have any of it now. You can literally call up online, they have lists. These trans movement created lists for top surgery. Okay, you don't even need to have any of that. And in some cases, from my understanding, you don't even need your parents' consent to do this anymore. Oh my God. Okay, I'm going to fast forward here for a minute.
like, we're gonna.
for having supported her.
Oh my God. This poor child.
I cycled through a whole bunch of identities. I was a demi boy again, and then I was
Wow.
agender, and then I was gender fluid, and then I was bigender.
Oh my God.
And then eventually I'm a girl. And I was always just a girl.
Can you just imagine the burden that this young child was put into? Because first off, they were on the internet. Secondly, and that's nobody's fault necessarily. That's a whole other discussion. Then they get trapped into a whole space by a bunch of weirdos calling themselves trans. And then this was probably considered an egg. Remember the whole egg thing? And then just literally sort of indoctrinated into this, I must be a boy thing because I don't like my boobs and I don't like the way I look and I don't like and I can become a boy. And it started with bigender, then demigender, then non-binary, then it went to trans, then it went to hormones, then it went to surgery, then it went, whoops, I don't feel better. I feel worse about myself. And then the trans community is saying, well, you never were. You're just really a cisgender and you got stuck into it. And then them going against these people. I think this actual person is going and doing a lawsuit against, thank God, we need to support them all. And then it just came full circle. It just came full circle. And it's why I keep telling you there's no way a child should be in this. I have this last one I want to bring up here because I found it to be quite interesting. I want to discuss this real quick.
I'm probably not the first person to say that the pornography and social media and everything's available on the internet now has really ruined a whole generation of kids. Their whole idea of gender and identity and sexuality is ruined. And I don't know how you come out from that, but you've got these weird bullshit pointless terms like non-binary, which just means, well, I don't look like a stereotypical version of a man or a woman. Then you got demisexual, so meaning that you are not excessively horny, you only feel attraction to someone that you've formed an emotional bond with. You're normal.
That's right.
And
that's
if you're
right.
grey asexual, that just means you're not horny all the time. You're just sometimes aroused. So you're normal.
Right.
But now we're labeling these things and medicalizing them. We're pathologizing normal human behavior.
Great point. So I wanted to bring that up because this is the person from the beginning and who wrote their endocrinologist who now transitioned back to being a girl and really is spilling the beans. You know, I do believe that the access to adult space for young people has destroyed young people's minds. I do think they're seeing things they should never be seeing as a young person. Adults have a different story. You can consent to that. It's your space. I don't care what you do. I do think that is another discussion that we can have. But that being said, I believe that they are pathologizing normal behavior, right? They're saying, oh, well, I'm a demi boy, whatever that, all these terms are creating all these terms. And again, I'm going to say, what is the long game here? What do they want to achieve from all this? To manipulate humans? It's actually really scary when you start to think about, like, what are they doing to these kids? And why are they doing that? And that poor parent. And what about the parents who are involved in this? And then we have all these parents of trans kids. And then what happens when these kids grow up and realize they're not really trans? And then they're going to just go after their parents. And then the whole thing is so insane to me and so disgusting. And I just don't even know what to tell you. I feel so sad for these young kids. And, you know, a lot of them dislike me because, you know, I can understand why. I can take it. I'm an adult and I know why they might be mad at me. And I know why some people think I'm part of this problem when I'm not. I am not part of this problem. I've been doing this for a long time and I've been advocating for mental health care. This is the last resort, people. It's the last resort. This should never be, okay, you're transgender, boom, you're in surgery at 14 years old. Never have I advocated for that and never will I advocate for that. So in order for us all to see this, you're never going to get rid of transsexual people. We are here. We will be here. It is an adult space. It needs to be gatekept. It needs to go back into a medicalized space. Nobody under, and in fact, I believe nobody under the age of 21 should ever be doing any of this medicalization. Go ahead and live like a boy. That's what we used to have to do. We had to live in that sex we wanted to be until we could feel it, try it on. Oh, I hate this shirt. I'm taking it off. I don't have scars. I have none of the stuff you see with these young new trans movement people. None of it. None of it. I could take my clothes off and literally look like a dude, okay? So that's the whole point I'm trying to make here, is these kids should have never been put in this space. It is disgusting. I will continue to expose the insane trans movement that has nothing to do with anything trans, okay? It has to do with something else. It's a sick experiment on children. It's a sick experiment on humanity. It needs to all be shut down, all of it, okay? So today I'm not going to cry because today I'm pissed. And when I just see this stuff, I just get so pissed off. So I hope you're pissed off too. And I appreciate you all supporting me. And I appreciate, the likes and the comments and really subscribing to the channel and hopefully introducing me to other people so we can continue to create these videos and continue to push against the narrative that trans kids are kids. It's horrifying. So thanks again. Have a beautiful rest of your day. And I'll see you guys all on the live on Wednesday.